that.
Yeah.
Darn it! That's just how it is. That's how it's.
That's how we were raised. That's how my sisters were, and that's how.
Yeah.
You know, you still see that. You still see that. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Get out of the sun. You get too dark.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah,
Well-
that's
I was trying to think how we started talking about that. Oh yeah,
How
we
long
were talking
How long
about
before you guys got married?
yes. It was about a year and a half. About a year and a half. We started dating officially in January of 2013, and so we were dating for almost a year. And I remember, I don't know if you remember that it was this date, Gaston, but January 1st, the following year, 2014, it was New Year's Day, and we're like, you know, Gaston is a star soccer player. He loves soccer. We were gearing up for the World Cup that year
To
in
go
2014
visit.
to go to Brazil.
To go
Really?
to Brazil, where the
We
World
were-
Cup was being held.
Yes.
What year was that?
2014.
2014.
So we were talking about it in 2013. We were like, oh, that would be so dope to go to the World Cup. And, you know, mind you, I didn't grow up watching soccer, but I started to love soccer through Gaston. And it's so neat how worldwide it is and how everyone is involved. So I wanted to experience that in person in Brazil, and I calculated it. I did all the math because this is what I do. I love spreadsheets, even though I'm an English major and you know, an English teacher by trade. But
She's a planner.
I am.
A compulsive,
He doesn't always like it because it's a little too much for him.
overwhelming planner.
Yes. So I did the math.
I'm like looking at my planning sheets.
Oh yeah. So I did the math and I was like, gosh, it's gonna cost like $7,000 for each of us to go to Brazil. And he said, wow, that's a lot of money. It sounds like a honeymoon. Why don't we get married instead? I'm like, what? Come
And-
again?
Did you just propose?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wasn't
I was
kidding.
so surprised. He was not.
But the only thing is, I wasn't quite proposing
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking out loud,
Yeah.
which is not the best thing to do when it comes to
A planner.
a marriage idea, you know, but it did make sense to me, like, and it's funny because I literally from that first time, that moment I told you guys about it, Starbucks, I was like, that's the one. It's just that this society will fight you on, you should do this and you should that. You should make sure, you know, the Holy Spirit acts very quickly. Only you gotta, you know, what do you call it?
You gotta open yourself
You
up.
got to do your homework, right? Yeah, and it's good to, and that's what I needed to do with Jamie.
To discern.
Right.
You gotta
discern.
put your work in, right? So
And we did,
I meant it. It was in the back. It was in the front of my mind. You know, it was like we should just get married, but I needed a ring. You know, and here I was with this menial architecture job, you know, drafting 8 hours a day. You know, stationary at a desk with only my finger moving and a bunch of great lines making, you know, structural members into a building and such, restaurants, medical offices, you know, homes, craftsman homes. But no, I'm losing my train of thought.
You were
here.
talking about the ring.
But the ring,
Yeah.
I needed a ring, you know, it's like, I couldn't ask Jamie like, oh, marry me. Here's a paper ring. I'm not that charismatic, you know?
But I would have still said yes. It could have been, you know, a piece of tin. It could have been.
I'm not Matthew McConaughey and one of those like
But you have the eyes.
rom-com.
Yes,
You have
it's
the eyes.
I think my eyes are blessed. I do have 20/20 vision physically.
Oh my gosh, this is true. True story.
And I think it helped me be an athlete. And I played soccer in college 2 years, you know, and then I got hurt. I would have played further, but I just stop there. But yeah, thus far, my eyes, I really appreciate that I can see clearly, and
It's amazing. I had LASIK.
and it helps me draw.
Like,
it helps me see things and
Yeah.
draw, because drawing is all about seeing. And that's one thing I don't think I've said, that I'm a teacher and I teach art and design, but I love to draw. I mentioned that. I drawing since I was a kid. But in that architecture job, I'll just bring it back. I was unhappy, and that was that I think the Holy Spirit said, you're frustrated. We hit a block, because how can you marry this beautiful woman who you want to marry, who wants to marry you, I believe, but here you are earning, $300 a week, and living at home in this somewhat toxic situation. How are you going to get out of this? How are you going to marry this girl? It's like, that's where God came in, and by the way, it relates to this idea. Let me leave it there for now.
Yeah, yeah. And what was interesting, Gaston mentioned that on our first date that he saw that I was, kind of paraphrasing what you said. I appeared to be put together, like in the sense that my life was like on this new track. I had just purchased a home a couple months before meeting Gaston. That September 2nd, when I met him, I had my housewarming the night before. And I had, friends and family over. It was an amazing time. Met Gaston the next day, and it was like, God was saying, let me open your home to even more possibilities.
To a special visitor.
Yeah! He said Cabbage Patch. Oh my God.
So were
See,
you
dancer
intimidated
right
with
here.
that? That she already had her home. She's establishing herself, established. Because I
a good
know
question.
that sometimes, even myself, for a very male-dominated culture, it's intimidating. Because I remember, I want to get married. I need to have a house. I need to have this. Because that's how I was raised. So was that an intimidation factor for you? It's like, I'm going to ask her. She already has a house. I'm living at home.
It was, but I think that was God's plan with the Holy Spirit to help me look at Jamie as a friend. People say, "Wow, 6-month courtship. What was your hurry, man?"
I know a couple like that.
And I mean, I have my reasons,
Close to a year.
but one of them is that I had already established a friendship with Jamie. I admired Jamie. I wasn't just in love with Jamie at first. I had already established an admirational friendship. I thought, that's how I want to be,
And God was ever present. When did he actually propose? Was that the proposal? We should just get married.
No, that wasn't. There was a formal proposal, and my only wish was, don't propose to me on Valentine's Day. It's so cliche. So he proposed the day before.
Our viewers didn't see my eyes roll.
He
High and wide.
proposed the day before, February 13th. So I got to sport my new engagement ring, my big old rock, on Valentine's Day at work, and a student noticed too, and he totally blurted it out to everybody. He was like, "Oh, she's getting married!" So I was super excited. I was very grateful that Gaston decided to propose at my parents' house in front of my my parents and my youngest brother, and it was a very special moment. And it's funny because, he mentioned he brought up marriage on January 1st that year, and then proposed February 13th, and that whole time what, month and a half. I was like, when's he gonna do it? I thought I was ready every single day to just say yes. And when he actually proposed, I froze. It's like, why did I freeze? It's because like Gaston is very methodical in his thoughts, and he likes to he's very thorough.
That can be even controlling.
Well,
that's
not what I'm
but
saying.
That's
though.
not what you're saying.
That's
But
not what I'm saying here.
methodical.
So he's methodical in the sense that he does talk out his thoughts, his thought process. And so when he proposed, it was so short. It was like, I love you. God put me up to this. Will you marry me? I was like, whoa, that's like the shortest thing I've ever heard you say. Yet it was so concise, and I was stunned, and I hesitated. But he asked it again, and I'm telling you, this is verbatim. God put me up. I love you. God put me up to this. Will you marry me? And then I was like, yes, because when he had to repeat it, I started laughing. And that laughter, that humor that Gaston brought to the proposal, because of my random, being stunned at that, at what he was asking me, I was like, wow, this is a real testament of our relationship, is that, we can be so sincere yet still laugh through life. And that was something that I was excited about in saying yes to marry him.
That's beautiful. All I can think of is your mom and dad going, "Hoi, Jamie,
why aren't you saying
why aren't
yes?
you saying yes?"
But didn't I thought I did something I know I put the ring in the pantry and
Oh yeah.
but I thought I did something that's creative. I don't know. Didn't I bake something or
But you had to get it out of a
ring
cake.
of the cake?
You brought me flowers.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, the flowers and the ring were in my parents' pantry, but he couldn't find where he put it.
Exactly.
And I was still kind of
exactly.
I was like, dude, why is my mom acting weird? I'm all sweaty from having taught Zumba that night. My mom was so excited to go to my Zumba class with me and take that with me. I'm like, Mom, why are you tripping right now? You're acting weird. And when I knew that we were having dinner with my parents, but why did my mom bust out the fine china? That was sketch right there. That was hella sketch. I was like, it's chow mein. Why?
Darn, I should have hooked up some I don't know.
He brought dinner. He brought dinner.
What's fancy?
Yeah.
Chinese food.
We had chow mein.
No, it was it was Chinese food, but my mom brought out the fine dishes, and I'm like, okay. And my brother came home,
and by the way, her mom the other day, in front of the ceremony we had to commemorate
our anniversary.
Our anniversary. She went ahead and just claimed that I forgot entirely where the ring was.
And it was funny to her because she noticed. She knew that he was looking for
I forgot
it.
what box of crackers in between.
You literally put it inside of a box.
He put
I
it
put
next to the Skyflakes.
Yeah, I put it next to the Skyflakes and
But he couldn't
not
remember that.
and not by the cereal, but I couldn't remember at the moment. I must have been pretty
You were
nervous.
nervous.
He was
Yeah,
nervous.
but for your mom to say he forgot where the ring was, I'm like, that was very. That's not exactly how it went.
That's how she saw it,
But-
though. That's how she remembered it. And she was laughing, too. She was laughing inside, not wanting to, expose the surprise.
I
But
think
yeah,
I think
it was
Jamie
really neat.
I think God hooked us up like that because God continues to make us complement each other. that's what intuitively I recognized
Yeah.
right away. When I needed a friend, Jamie was a friend. When I needed to witness a beautiful woman, Jamie was the beautiful one. When I needed to have support, Jamie was the support. When leadership, it just keeps on complement each other. We're finding, in our marriage, and that's, I think, what a lot of our marriage is about.
Yeah.
Continuing to find that God is leading us. If we can just be faithful.
That's always been our common ground. That, our faith, our Catholic faith, and, having faith every week to go to Mass. And, that's what brought us together. And,
it does keep bringing us together. I mean, so I don't know about you, Arnell, but like sometimes, like I just don't want to go to Mass, and I think that's just a human thing, but I'm not just gonna make an excuse. I sometimes really just like I need to. I think religion, I told Jamie, don't worry, babe. Like I admit it is helping us. It has helped us from the beginning. It's what brought us together. And I see the value, these days there's a lot of criticism on religious life, the non-denominationals are like religion, Jesus hated religion.
I'm spiritual, not religious.
Yeah, I'm spiritual, not religious, as if they I'm better.
Yeah.
It's like don't understand. They don't understand. Hey, it's not for them not to understand, it's for me to understand. And that it helps me fight for my own mind. It helps me understand that like see, you got here and now you feel better, don't you? Like, yes, you gotta stand up, sit down, kneel, stand up, sit down, fight. No, I'm just kidding.
That's Catholic Zumba.
Catholic Zumba.
Yeah.
There we go. But
but you get there, and that's the point. And it's not just. Well, go ahead, Jane.
The richness of the traditions, the sacraments.
We just
going
talked about
back.
this.
Yes, we just talked about this the other day. Just the richness in the
conflict,
sacraments.
the struggle. We talked about this. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't. What do you mean by that?
The conflict and the struggle of not always wanting to go back, to church. It's. But what I find is that there's misunderstandings. There's. I grew up being told, like I told you, how my mom just get in the car. Okay.
Yeah.
Why? A teenager needs to know. That's what they do. They ask good questions. But if you're telling a teenager enough times, just get your butt in the car. Then I'm gonna have a resentment against where you're taking me, because I don't understand why.
They're just not going. They're going through the motions.
Yeah, they're going through the motions, and you go through the motions one more time. That's how you learn how to go through life, and that's part of what happened to me after college. Hey, bud, are you there? Yeah. You got to think for yourself now. Yeah. No, I get to go through the motions. And spiritually, so reconciling that with my church, reconciling that with my faith has been a journey in itself. But here, my wife is able to help me understand, and to be tolerant, and also just to help me just get sometimes there. And music has been a positive attraction. Not so much. You don't go to church, it's a sin, but you get to church, let's sing. You get to be a drummer if you choose. A positive attraction. Attraction, a faith by attraction, not faith by punitive. That.
I always tell my confirmands that you're in confirmation and you're learning about the faith, but what you're trying to do is fall in love with her. And if you've ever dated anyone, if you've ever been married, you see two people who are older and are married and are so still much more in love than when they first met. That's the faith. you constantly fall in love with the church, the bride of Christ, because you're constantly trying to learn more about her. The same thing with our bride. We try to learn so much more every single time. I know that you know more about Jamie than the first time that you met her. And you're going to know more about Jamie 10, 15, 20 years from now. And you're going to love her just the same way. And I always tell people, you know what? When you look at your bride, when you're 60, 70, 80 years old, we have this couple that adopted us as they're kind of like pseudo children, Mar and Rusty. And they're 80 and 70, 76. I asked them one time, so, you know, it's kind of like those things. Do you still have sex at 80 years old? And so yeah. And then, oh. and it's like, so how do you see her? It says, he said, I still see her like the first time I saw her.
Oh.
I don't see her as old. And then there she is. Oh, I see him old.
Yeah.
But maybe that's a man thing.
Yeah.
But when I look at my wife and she says, I'm older, you know, it's like, I still see us the first time I saw you when we were 18. That's how I envision, that's how I see her. And then someone asked me, so when we die and we go to heaven, what will we look like? I was like, I don't know about what we will look like, but I know what my wife will look like.
Oh, yeah.
She'll be forever the person I fell in love with. And that grows. So
It's beautiful.
Is your ministry music? You guys are music ministers?
Yes.
Definitely.
We are music ministers. Don't forget the mic. We are music ministers, and I am a choir director still. So when we met at St. Adelaide, I was also choir director at St. Francis, Xavier Cabrini in Yucaipa. And so I was at both churches for a while, and then I decided to stay at St. Francis. When was it? We were already married. We were already married when I left St. Adelaide, which was my second job. So it was like a side job for me at St. Adelaide. But when I committed fully back to St. Francis, which is only twice a month, Gaston and I started doing music ministry together there after we were married. So we got married at St. Francis. We still do music ministry there together today. And we're trying to continue to grow our choir because right now there are just 3 of us. So if anyone is interested in singing, 11 a.m., first and third Sundays of the month at St. Francis in Yucaipa, we continue to do that. And even our renewal of vows for our 8-year or Ochoa anniversary.
Ochoa
anniversary.
That's right.
Yes, we use the chapel behind the regular church for our ceremony, and I'm so gracious to Father Santos who approved that at the last minute because our plans had changed at the last minute. So with that, like St. Francis is where our marriage began. It continues to be our church, and music continues to be our ministry. Most of our friends that came to our anniversary mass were from music. In fact, Letty and Ivan, who invited me up to sing with them at St. Adelaide the day I met Gaston, they were there.
Aww.
They were there at our anniversary mass just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I watched it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I watched it on Facebook.
What?
Your posts.
The
the
post.
post.
I was like,
post.
did somebody put us on live? I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I want to see it.
I saw
Yeah.
I saw your post, and I was
Yes.
we were quarantined.
Oh
of course.
yes,
And-
my video that I put together. Thank you to Mama Ochoa who gave us all the footage.
So
Yes.
8 years.
Yes.
8 years. 8 years of marriage. Yeah, I told you, we my wife and I we're so excited, and we wanted to wait for many years before having children, and all of a sudden we're like, we've not had a vacation without children.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, now that our kids are in college and they don't want to go anywhere with us, we're having that empty nest that we don't know how to vacation by ourselves. Now, you guys, regarding children, is that something that, you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is in our story, again, undeniably to not have children, yet, and possibly never, right? And it's something that we're able to address plainly, and with God's hope, with God's help,
Yeah.
and we're not as timid as before, and
In what sense do you mean timid?
timid to talk about it, timid to say,
Sensitive.
timid to say that thus far, we've proven to not be able to have kids thus far, right?
In other
And,
words, experiencing infertility.
Yeah. Being able to
for
actually
years.
say that, infertility,
Yeah.
and while the story's not done,
Anything can happen with God.
Oh, yeah.
Any
Yeah,
miracle.
right.
My oldest sister was infertile 13 years, to the point where they adopted.
Oh, yes.
And then they had 3 girls.
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Wow.
My other sister, infertile. And then later on, I'm like, what happened? You had twins.
Oh.
So, the hope, the prayer. I know my oldest sister, there was a new church that we all belonged to, St. Elizabeth Ann Seton in Roland Heights. They were breaking ground. And she asked, and she said, I pray to you, St. Elizabeth, that let me have children. I will name her after you. And so the very first child is Elizabeth Ann.
Oh.
And the next one is Anne as well. And then the third one is Anne as well.
Oh. That's awesome. Yeah. So it's
that's amazing.
yeah.
That's truly that's truly amazing.
It gives us hope
Yeah.
to hear stories.
It gives us hope, but you gotta understand where I think our heads and our hearts were and are.
Yes.
Well,
let's talk about where they were.
okay.
Yeah. So I can speak to that. 8 years of marriage, I would have expected we had 4 kids by now, right? Going into our 5-month engagement, which is short. Like in the bulletin, it always says 6 months of preparation. But since we were so involved in the church, they knew, they bent.
They fast-tracked you.
They fast-tracked it, exactly. I asked, is it a guideline or a hard set rule? She said it's a guideline. You can get married in 5 months. We were like, okay. So, I thought for
good.
sure, let's give it some time. We are learning about natural family planning. Let's give it some time. And then, you know what? 4 months into our marriage, we said, let's try.
Let's do it.
Let's try. Let's stop trying to abstain, during the fertile times. Let's just, we're not getting any younger. I was 33, Gaston was 36, and it didn't happen 1 year. And then it didn't happen a second year. And that's how the story goes. We tried, I went to it was a source of grief.
Hey, Jamie, hang on.
Okay.
So your head was in full blown, you want to have children mode,
Yes.
right? Want to have 4 at that. And you expected it at a certain time in your life.
Right.
Because she's a planner.
Because I'm a planner.
She's a planner. My okay, I just wanted to establish that. Just like,
Yes. Yeah.
and to mine was similar and yet different. Similar because, you know, when I was like just after the recession, just living at home, not even dating Jamie yet, it's like I want to be 34 and I want to have 3 children. And, you know, I don't know where I got that idea from, because intuitively, I also wanted the white picket fence and the 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths and 2 dogs and 2.5 dogs and you know, and such and such.
The American dream.
The American dream, right? I wanted to be an architect, a California licensed architect. You can't get, in my mind, you can't get any hotter than that. Right? Any more professional, smart,
Hot singing wife.
right? And a hot dog. Okay, I didn't mean hey, that was for you, Filipino, silly, for you, silly.
This guy.
I meant to rail on this hot and that hot, but I went with hot dog.
And this is a sober podcast.
It is. Smart water, guys.
It's a smart water.
Sponsored by Smart Water.
JK, not sponsored.
I came up,
Consider it.
but I came up with the ideal vision for my life, right? But when the rubber hit the road, I didn't end up becoming an architect because a lot of my heart and mind said, I don't want to be doing this. Don't want to be stationary, drafting. I don't want to take this ridiculously hard test that seems to be culturally biased,
Yeah.
and surrounded by these culturally dominated profession, and then moreover, and here I was with Jamie trying all I could to deliver on children, but was it in my heart and mind? It's hard to even admit, but my heart was on step 1, for manhood wise, providing, right? Damn, dude, you need to provide a ring. You mustered that, you scrapped that together. Now you got to like help pay for rent. That's where my mind was.
Mortgage.
Not in yielding for another life. And it wasn't just that. It was just not in my heart to foster another life. I was struggling so bad still in my mind and heart. How could I? Never mind. I didn't even have the question ready. All I was doing was going through those motions.
Yeah.
Maybe even in our bedroom.
Placing those self-imposed barriers.
Yeah, these intergenerational ideals.
And I couldn't see that.
But as an artist,
hard.
and in my recovery, from the effects of alcoholism and the effects of the past and intergenerationally, I did gain a sense of who I was. But I would be lying if I was to tell you that my fondest dream was to become a father. It just didn't come up in my mind. I had to meditate. In my career of meditating, I had to meditate long and hard just to pull up a vision of a beautiful union between a fostering life. So it was very remote. It was a remote dream, but a dream nonetheless. So yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to establish that that's where kind of our minds were.
That's where you were, and that's where you're at.
Yeah. That's where Gaston was. That's where I was at. Yeah, you're right. That's where I am. This is where I am, where I'm still hopeful, and we are hopeful that let's just be open to God's beauty, what he has for us.
And let's talk about just generally helping out our health. We thought, is there something wrong? Because people diagnose themselves and they're like, oh, turns out that I got 2 years. Turns out that I have a tumor. It turns out that I have this and that. And so we found some issues in both of us, interestingly,
throughout the years.
Yeah. And we also heard that you can think your way into unhealthy situations and conditions.
So with our health journey, that's really helping strengthen our marriage too. So, in discovering that, we've got some balance in our physical bodies to balance out. We've got some issues to balance out, and until we get a bearing on our physical health, then it could take a while, and it has. But it's been a wonderful health journey, a wonderful discovery, and here's me looking at the bright side of things, and I do that. Like, what is the positive in this? What does God have planned for us? And it's what's there to be excited about. And as we continue to get more and more healthy, our marriage is really strengthening. It put me in a headspace of, I don't need to have a child to be happy in my marriage. That was tremendous for me to discover. And mind you, it took a lot of therapy to get me there, because I understood that, this is what makes a happy family. This is the wife's fulfillment. It's so the most important job a woman can have is to be a mother. And I bought into that. But then, on the contrary, I learned that you can want and want and want. And you could say, I will be happy when I become a mother. But then I miss every moment now.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got out of that headspace of, Gaston, we have to have kids. We got to keep trying everything that we can. It's like, I don't think God wanted that for me. That was hard.
My thing on that is God just wants us to be open.
Yeah.
Just open to life.
Right.
And if you are blessed, or you receive a gift, not that you're not blessed, but if you receive a gift, then accept that gift, right?
Yes.
And if not blessed with a child, then I always tell my sisters, then the Lord has something else planned for you.
Yeah.
And a different way to witness to that. But I do have a question, because somebody asked me to ask this question. It's, in your desire to have children, what did the two of you do to remain strong in your faith in God?
That's good.
In your desire to have children, what did we do to strengthen us
to
in the meantime?
Strong.
Right. So,
because we could have, in other words, we could have lost our faith and said, forget it. God does not want us to be happy. God is not blessing
addicts.
us.
We could have like,
oh gosh,
we could have thrown it all away. We could have thrown each other away.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we did, just the thesis is we kept our religion. We of course we kept going to MFT to help us. We knew that we needed a community. Kept the MFT. Now we also, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm in a recovery program, so I maintained my health there, because I will say, that there's things that I find in my recovery program that the Catholic Church, of course, never addressed. Health concerns. concerns about general well-being. And I'm not I'm not resentful, but I did go through the motions a lot, and I was told, get in the car, we're going to church. No, that didn't serve me well. And some traumas in the church. 20 years later, here I am, though, saying that our religion works. Our religion works for me. And if I need, maybe on a different podcast, we can get into the traumas. But
we definitely will.
Yeah.
Because in September, we're doing generational trauma.
Oh,
maybe we can address that.
Yeah.
Because
Yes,
it's important.
definitely.
But faith by religion, faith by church, faith by recovery program, faith by therapy. I mean, Jamie and I needed and wanted it all because we love to live right. We don't do well living wrong. Just living unsupported against the grain. And that's unfortunately, but truthfully, that's where we were that's how we were programmed. You will be an architect with 3 children and 2.5 dogs in California. You will have 4 children, married and with a exceptional husband and blah, blah, blah. God has a much more authentic and genuine plan for us.
And we banked on that. We still continue
and so
to...
prayer and meditation, a lot of prayer talk within us. Our sex life is healthy. We try to read on theology of the body. We really appreciate these theologians who we can draw a lot of direct wisdom from. We appreciate our friends, our people that are moving and shaking, people that draw us in warmly. And it's not all about our families, because you got a glimpse of what our families were like, it's Jamie and Gaston becoming a real asset now to the community. So it's about service, and becoming valuable. So there we find our value. And one more thing. Just kidding.
He does that when he tries to take over the conversation.
Yeah, I say one more thing, and Jamie goes,
breathe.
Yeah. So this is something that I brought up in a reflection on our anniversary to our friends and family, because our priest uncle had us turn around during the homily part of the mass, and he said, let's let Gaston and Jamie be part of this homily and share their story.
He was just being lazy.
No.
He didn't write anything.
Don't rag on Theo. So no, he was amazing, and I love that he did this, because I did say, and I was so sincere about it, that even though we don't have children, we are both teachers. We're godparents to 13 combined, and we're Theo and Thea, we're auntie and uncle. We have a lot of influence over young people, all around us. And it's so refreshing to see that our marriage is reflecting the gospel, God's Trinity, God, Son, and Holy Spirit. And that love in our marriage is really being exuded to people that we don't even realize. Like, we're reaching masses every day when we go to our, our classes. Yeah, when we go to work in front of our students. And we're constantly having to put on various hats. My students called me mom on the very last week of school, yet they've never said that to me out loud before. Maybe because they were shy. They probably didn't know how I was going to react. But it's bringing me to tears right now that, they wrote that on my board, which was like a yearbook, a yearbook page for me. And, one student, and I said this, I cried on our anniversary too. When I said this, I got the biggest compliment from one of my students who said, Mrs. Ochoa is the most consistent teacher I have ever had. Mm-hmm. I was like, consistent? That's interesting because, God is consistent and constant. But not only God, my husband is too. Mm-hmm. And he is who taught me how to look at myself and find that recovery. Because yes, I experienced trauma as a kid. I experienced trauma that I didn't deal with for decades. And when I started to deal with that during the pandemic, like really face it and really do the work and recover myself, that's when my mindset shifted. That's when my mindset shifted tremendously. And that's where, I saw something different in me. I saw something different in Gaston and in our marriage that I wish that I saw years before we met, because, I've been a mess before, and I'm not perfect now. I'm still a mess in many different ways, but, in our marriage, we really, really do create something beautiful that is fruitful, even though, and no, let me take that back. I still see such fruit in our marriage, period.
And there always will be.
Yes.
Last question from me.
Okay.
One, first of all,
hey guys,
this
can
is.
Can you put this food over there?
Yeah, sure.
I feel like we're breathing over it.
And
yet I want
to
eat it all.
Mm-hmm. Favorite podcast, right here. Because one, this is probably the least amount of talking that people have ever experienced from me.
Oh.
Because you guys are I'm loving this.
Aw.
But one of the things I wanted to really ask, there are people listening who are maybe going through infertility or struggling with that, or the things that you guys are going through, and the things that you guys have shared. Thank you for really being so open and candid and vulnerable to share this, because this is stuff that people like to hide under and put in the closet and pretend that it's not happening. Also, I really want to ask you guys, what message do you have for other couples, out there who might be going through that same thing, that infertility, or the fear that, I'm not gonna, this quote unquote fulfill this thing that I've been told I have to be a mother, I have to be a father, and things like this, and not seeing how your journey has been. What advice do you have? What message do you have for them?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at each other, and I think I'm thinking of the same word as Gaston would say.
But why don't you go ahead first, because it sounds like I have something to say, definitely.
Okay. And let me confirm that this is what you might be thinking too. Gratitude.
Generally, that is what I'm generally thinking about.
Yes. We sit in gratitude, Gaston and me, we're experiencing the happiness now, the joy now in our marriage, and we're not longing. When we sit in gratitude, we're loving each other. We're understanding each other.
We're working. We're serving. We're worshiping. We are positive.
Yes.
But before we were, for lack of a better understanding, pitting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
The why me, why us?
ungrateful,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it was disguised by this cloak of it's my dream, it's that's fine, but do you accept, do you accept God's gifts on a daily basis? Do you accept that you are the gift? Do you accept that life is, do you see the gifts? Because like I said, like as an artist, drawing is about seeing. If you cannot see the object, you'll never have a chance of drawing that. We were not able to see ourselves, our health, general health, prosperity in home, finances improving, friends, community, no crisis whatsoever in the family, except my sister has, she had a lung transplant a few years ago. That was very tough. But if you cannot see it, you'll have no chance. But God gives you on a daily basis an opportunity to see. But you have to try. You have to believe it, and
It was hard to see.
So hard.
It was hard to see in the thick of it, in the thick of just disappointment month after month. It was hard to see the big picture, the beauty in our marriage, and it was hard to be. It was hard to be in gratitude.
Let's put a face to a name, or it was hard to enjoy sex too. Thinking, WTF, and are we supposed to enjoy, or are we supposed to just go for it? Are we supposed to go for it? Or supposed to not enjoy? What what
this
gives?
is just the process.
It was just the process, and it's like, well, once our attitude started shifting over, and it's, I would call it recent. You start to let go and let God. You start to enjoy life, and you start to ease up. And I started really specifically to just enjoy life more because it's this little cloak of I control shit.
Yeah.
I control things. I can make and I practice manipulation. That's how I grew up. When you get rid of that,
you're the youngest.
Yeah. When you get rid of
manipulation,
when you get rid of that, right? It's like I want what I want when I want it. And unfortunately, I got it sometimes, and then I learned that maybe it'll work as an adult. Well. It's important to have dreams, and hopes. But like you said, Arno, well, you don't have this, but you better darn well watch out, because you're going to get something. I don't mean to put it in a negative way. God has a different gift for you. And that was our case. That was our case. It is our case as of yet. As of yet. And
this is where we are right now.
It's a journey.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys are on that walk. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I do want to say one other small message to because I'm a fan of Father Greg Boyle, founder of Homeboy Industries, and I'm recently reading his book. It's
he's such an inspiration to us.
I've read Tattoos on the Heart, but this one's called
Barking to the Choir.
Barking to the Choir. Right.
I love how you guys finish each other.
Yeah. I tell Jamie on a daily basis, because of her organization.
Yeah.
What would I do without you, babe?
Yes, he
like
does
what?
say that a lot.
Where would I be? I have these good visions, these good things, but
Gaston comes up with ideas.
Yeah, Jamie flushes it. Jamie slam dunks it. No, and he says, God, you think God's gonna be the one to like pull you out of that ditch, and but maybe this is a bad analogy. This is my own analogy, but he just generally says that God's not always gonna be there to pull you out of this earthly struggle, but you better believe he's going to be right by your side. He's going to be there with you, praying with you, being with you the entire time. And I really take solace in that because this is a loss in a way.
And there was a lot of grief.
You can't sugarcoat this, you know. Period. Now, I get to see that while it is a loss, and I do have a void sometimes when it's you and me alone, you know, at home, and there's no clatter, there's no, you know, click clack of kids' feet, no chatter. It's just you and I, you know, maybe the dogs,
And our dogs.
you know, which of course do replace some of that, but it's just not the same. And I will not say that it's the same, you know. So it is a void in a way. But we get to let God fill that up. Now, men and women, God is with you with that loss, and it is a legitimate loss as of yet. But do you get to enjoy? And here's the big but. Do you get to enjoy your extra free time? Do you get to enjoy that stress, that less stress? You know,
It's a different stress.
A different stress. Do you get to
Not
enjoy
less, different.
what God is giving you? Because if it's some different gift, could it be that? Well, that's part of it. Are you grateful for that? Because if you are missing that, because you're worrying, I don't know, maybe it's time to start trying to see a little better, you know? So, and I'm not trying to take any away from dads, you know, because God bless you guys. Y'all are tough, especially you that are raising your kids right. Because it's not just let's be parents and you got it in the bag. No, you got to raise your kids. That's a ministry. That is amazing. And so God bless you guys. And that is a gift too, of course. We get our gift too, though. There's no complete deficiency in what we have, and that we don't hear. So perhaps Arnell, we are in a way a pioneer for that. So can I get my pioneer fact? But yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do want to add, we are not, I want to dig a little bit deeper into what Gaston said about us not being deficient. Yeah, because we don't have children, it doesn't mean that our marriage is not fruitful and that our marriage is infertile. Because, you know, we're planting seeds in so many different ways. And so I love that. I love that.
And okay, I just want to say and just that like we don't benefit from being envious.
Yeah.
You know, we don't learn and grow by being envious. And so I practice not being envious, you know.
We are genuinely happy for our friends and family who whose families continue to grow.
Yeah, we support these families. Yeah. We help these families. We're not perfect. We can't spend all our time with them. We have a gift to nurture ourselves. You know, in our solitude, in our ministry, in our hobbies, in our careers. So I wanted to mention that because thank you, Arnell, for just asking that question.
I just love that both of your answers is gratitude. It's to live out a life of gratitude because, you know, in a world of today, there's not enough of that. We all want something more. We all want something that we say, I deserve that.
Yeah.
And something is lacking because I don't have that. And that's a lack of gratitude. And the gift that's been given to us. You know, you have people who are like me, you know, people who have, you know, are two crazy daughters. Or like, look at your Facebook thing where you guys are like cooking in the middle of the rain with this trailer. And we're like, my wife and I are looking and say, we could have done that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, look how happy they are in their misery. in the middle of the rain,
In the
in
middle
mud.
of thunder
in
and
the middle of
lightning.
That was
thunder.
Jamie's idea.
And we're
And she
like,
goes, let's pray.
Yes, we were literally like holding each other because
in the middle of a thunderstorm.
in the middle of a thunderstorm. Yeah, he was
You
terrified.
recorded that?
No, I didn't record that. But
I saw
I'm
you
starting
guys
to- That would've
cooking
been-
breakfast in the mud.
yeah,
I'm starting to pick up on these like you should video this.
yeah.
So
Yep.
We
So,
can we can definitely reenact it.
Yeah. So we look at that and we're like, oh, so we can actually live vicariously through that.
Yeah,
But you know what?
so funny.
Just watching your post is just beautiful. You know, where our tagline is live a life of holiness. You know, be blessed and be third. And that's what you guys literally are epitomizing, is that you guys are living that life in your ministry of being husband and wife. In your music ministry, is you are living a life of holiness, and people see that. I see that. That's why I invited you guys. I only met you one time. I was like, I need to get those two on the podcast. Who knows those two?
Yeah.
And then, you know,
Yeah.
our godchild, Tony and Bethany, is like, oh, I know them. It's like, oh, you better. You invited them to your wedding.
Yeah.
And you know, being blessed. And so our tagline, be blessed, because you know and you understand that you are blessed. You've accepted that. You're grateful for it.
Yes.
And then our last tagline says, be third, which is, if you're living a life of being third, then you're living a life of joy, which is Jesus first, others second, and then you third. And that's the whole thing with our whole tagline of live a life of holiness, be blessed, and be third. And my gosh, I want to thank you too. And we're definitely come back, because we're going to talk about generational trauma, because I have some, you have some, and maybe we'll get a therapist to come as a fourth wheel, and we'll get free therapy.
Yes.
Jacob,
Oh.
you're being called
a
out.
Catholic therapist. We're going to
There
call out
we
our Catholic therapist, and
go.
we're going to talk about generational trauma.
Yes.
That's going to be a great episode.
Oh my gosh.
I think I have a radio face too. Not sure I go well on. I kind of look a little.
So
Never mind.
So this episode has been so exciting. It's been so informative for me, because just listening to your stories makes, I think all our listeners are listening going, I think I'm in love. I'm in love with you guys. I'm in love with my wife all over again, because you get to, when you're listening to this, you get to reminisce about your relationship, the pitfalls, the successes, the joys, the sadness, the tears, the laughter. And we've done a lot of laughing.
Yes. And a little bit of crying.
And a little bit of
too.
crying.
Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful. So thank you so much
Thank
for joining us on the
you.
Thank you,
podcast.
Arnell. Really appreciate this
Yes.
connected podcast. You guys are doing a great thing,
Yeah.
especially in our area. And I pray you guys keep it up and keep growing.
All Holy Spirit, because
Yes.
this was just, you know, it's been truly a blessing. We want to bring it out a little bit farther, to bring out some of the things that touch our communities, and that's why we're doing a series on marriage and family
Yeah.
ministry. And
Yes.
so whatever ministry you're in, that initial ministry that you have is your marriage and your family, and then the ministry that you have that you're serving.
Yeah.
And I think people need to point that out. So we're going to have different guests with different ministries, different types of marriages, different types of issues. So that's going to be exciting.
That's awesome.
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And on that note, fam, thank you for joining us for another episode of this Connected podcast. We have Gaston, formerly Oscar, and Jamie Peled, the Ochoas, who've been married years.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us. If you have something to say, a comment, anything like that, send it to catholic.dad50@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the podcast and the things that we do, 100% of our things that we get support to our Patreon, which is thisconnected.com/Patreon, goes to supporting youth and young adult ministries in the Diocese of San Bernardino. So please be liberal in supporting the show. go to our link, our bio, to become a patron and support us. Aside from that,
Yeah, do it.
yeah. Aside from that, if last thing, see, Tony's not here to tell me what I'm supposed to do next.
Oh.
It's like, live a life of holiness. Pray for us. We'll be praying for you. And as always, be blessed and be third. See you next time.
Different points of view and highs and lows. A new perspective everywhere you go. Open up your mind and drown out the noise of different generations of the girls and boys. So sit back and relax. This is Cat, the podcast. Don't overreact if the thoughts are abstract. When it's hosted by Catholic Dad, who knows what's gonna happen?
Hey, what's up, fam?
Different points of view and highs and lows. A new perspective everywhere you go. Open up your mind and drown out the noise and see if this connected.
What's up, fam? To connect generations and situations about faith, life, and whatever comes along.
Expect runaway thoughts like a runaway train. Break into conversation like links of a chain. Make a Hail Mary pass, hope this connects. Have a question for a guest, put it to rest. Live a life of holiness, lead by example. Follow at Catholic.Dad and Mini Tangled. Christ leads our way, he's the good shepherd. Pray for one another, be blessed and be third. Different points of view and highs and lows. A new perspective everywhere you go. Open up your mind and drown out the noise and see if this connected.
I think I am supposed to press stop here. And then stop